Keep an eye on the rest of these veteran corners. Now that Jaire Alexander has signed in Baltimore, perhaps this is the grease we need to turn the wheels and get some action going elsewhere across the league at one of the league's premium positions. Kyle Krabs with A to Z Sports, and we finally have just a little bit of movement here on this summer cornerback market that is a really interesting group. All it took to get something to happen was for Jaire Alexander to get cut from the Packers, leap at the chance to join Lamar Jackson after their time together in Louisville with the Baltimore Ravens after Lamar got up on the podium and pounded the table for Eric DeCosta to get the deal done. And within 24 hours, indeed, the deal was done. It's a one-year, $4 million contract for Alexander with an additional $2 million in incentives, which is a nice job by the Ravens to mitigate the risk that comes with Alexander and the durability issues that have plagued him for the past 4 years of his career. But you look across the rest of the landscape and you can't help but wonder, is the Jaire Alexander signing finally going to get some movement because the rest of these veteran corners and teams that have the need for a corner now have a price point to set their offers against to be able to dictate where this year's market really is available for these veteran players. You've got names like Rasul Douglas and Stephon Gilmore and Jack Jones and Asante Samuel Jr. all still out there waiting to be signed. And Asante Samuel Jr. does have some medical backgrounds that need to be cleared before he presumably signs his contract. But then you have teams that exist out there, like potentially the Arizona Cardinals after losing Sean Murphy-Bunting for the season. Will Johnson may be enough of a hedge for them in that regard. The Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers, the Miami Dolphins, all with teams that have glaring needs at the cornerback position. But that team down in South Florida is complicating this whole thing a little bit. And if any movement is going to happen for the rest of these corners, it may be Jaylen Ramsey that has to get moved first. And maybe the Jaire Alexander move can help spur that into action. The Dolphins have a balance of about $21 million owed to Ramsey, and they'd like to pay as little of it as possible. The challenge, of course, is teams can look and see Jaire Alexander just signed for 1 up to 6, and Ramsey doesn't have the injury background and is playing at a higher level than Jaire Alexander right now. But the discrepancy between Alexander playing for a maximum value of 6 versus Ramsey being guaranteed an additional $21 million on top of a $4 million roster bonus that the Dolphins have already paid him makes for a stark discrepancy. And perhaps this is the movement and reality check that the Dolphins need to up the ante on what they're willing to pay in order to get a reasonable draft pick back and move on from Jaylen Ramsey. But the hope is for all of these veteran corners that either we make peace with what this year's market is and we can land before training camp, or in the case of Jaylen Ramsey, he can be found a new team in time for the start of training camp, and then the Dolphins can then take their turn to potentially replace Jaylen Ramsey. What we do know is this: the first pawn on the board has been moved. Now, there's no guarantees because of the gap that exists. It's a little over a month between now and the start of training camp across the league, and deadlines do spur action. But the domino effect of Alexander now getting his contract extension done will be one to watch throughout this dead period to see just how hot the action potentially picks up elsewhere at one of the league's premium positions.